What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit live stream. Your fantasy football, sports betting, NASCAR, all that good stuff home here at fakepigskin.com. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at Notorious KRO. With me once again, finally figured out how to unmute himself. It's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
Good morning, Kyle, and everyone else out there. It's been a cold and early morning here on the West Coast, and before everybody attacks us, it's warmer in Buffalo, New York today than it is in SoCal. So let's put that into perspective.
Holy okay. Appreciate everyone hopping in. Appreciate everyone joining us. We're going to talk some bets. We're going to talk some injury news. We're going to talk some returns. We're going to talk all kinds of stuff. But Brian, before we dive into anything, I have a trade in my inbox, and I need you to help me not smash accept this, because I think I'm going to. So this is Dynasty. This is tight end premium. I get George Kittle. I give up Hayden Hurst and Jonnu Smith.
You haven't hit accept already?
Like, Jonnu's got so much upside, and Hurst has been great for Atlanta, but I'm getting George Kittle like in a a top 5 option.
The only thing, so before you hit yes, let's kind of analyze this real fast. So Hayden Hurst, yes, he plays in an offense that likes to target the tight end, but for how much longer is Matt Ryan going to be there before they decide to turn it over to a different kind of offensive scheme, which would probably deem the tight end position moot? And two, you got to think like Julio, he's still a boss, but he's getting up there as well. So eventually his like value to the offense is going to decrease. Now, going to Jonnu Smith, he's a guy who's been highly inconsistent. He hasn't turned into that, top tier, top 5 tight end that we all kind of expected. And although George Kittle has the injury concerns with how aggressive he plays, it would be like getting Gronk halfway through his career when he was already dealing with the shoulder and elbow injuries, and he's still worth more than what Hurst and Jonnu Smith can offer you, especially in a dynasty league.
Yeah. I'm just sometimes I'll get dynasty offers, and like it'll seem like I like second guess it myself, because I'm like, wait, there has to be something I'm missing, right? it can't legitimately be this easy. But I think
feel like that's kind of a right now move for the owner who's offering it to you, because they probably need help right now.
Right, and my team's not very good. Working on getting some pieces healthy. They're probably trying to compete. So, I mean, I understand it from both perspectives, but I'm always like, what am I missing? What's going on here? So yeah, I'm going to accept this trade and see what happens. Yes, I'd like to take George Kittle, the best player. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So let me go to my team then. Okay, so there's a lot going on today. Obviously, appreciate everyone who's joining us. We've only been on for a couple minutes, so I'm sure people will start rolling in and bring their questions. Let me drop the banner so they know to drop the questions. My question is it 2020 or 2017? Because people are losing their minds about Antonio Brown and Dez Bryant. And I'm not sure I'm comfortable starting either today.
I think Antonio Brown is a good start if you feel pretty confident in your top 2 wide receivers, and you feel like you have a good base for points, and you're just kind of looking for that, potential touchdown out of your flex position. Like I'm comfortable playing him there in a wide receiver 2 range. Probably not. And then on the other side, Dez Bryant, like throw up that X baby, like he's one of my favorite Cowboys of all time. That being said, I don't think
this is 2017.
I really think the reason why Baltimore brought Dez in was for his blocking, not his pass catching, not his receiving ability, but it's going to be the fact that his aggressiveness and his willingness to block on the outside is something that a guy like Marquise Brown does not offer. And with Baltimore trying to run the ball as much as they do, they kind of needed that big body receiver who has a history of being able to make those contested catches, because we've seen like Miles Boykin, we all kind of thought maybe this was going to be his season, and he hasn't really got involved in the offense, but I don't think Dez is going to see very much of a fantasy production.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like he wasn't really going to be activated, but they just needed bodies, so they activated. I'm curious to see how many plays he has. I'm with you in terms of if you want pure upside and you want to shoot for the moon with
the clown,
or with Antonio Brown. Like I get it, but like I feel like I'm still kind of in the same boat where I was. Like I feel like he doesn't play very much, and when he does, he's kind of, I don't know, like he's gonna play like a game and a half or two and like get like 4 catches. Maybe he gets a touchdown. Maybe that game is today, and I don't know.
Oh wow, first question already.
Okay, hit it.
All right, so we got Tim Patrick or Zach Moss PPR. What say you?
I mean, my stance on the situation. I'm a lot more open to the idea of Zach Moss being okay, like for fantasy, especially if he's, as I mentioned, like on the waiver wire show, he's seeing volume in key spots, and that's going to be the most important. He's going to have a chance to, not only is he splitting carries, but he's getting a lot of the carries by the goal line. He's getting a lot of carries, in the red zone. So that kind of thing is important. Tim Patrick's a guy that I loved before he went down, and I think this is a great matchup. Obviously, we're both big fans of Drew Lock and the Broncos this week against that horrible Atlanta defense. In a full PPR, I'm probably going Tim Patrick. I think Jerry Jeudy has a really nice game here. I think Noah Fant has a really nice game here. So maybe Patrick's like the third banana as he works himself back. If you need a safer floor, Moss might be that guy, but Moss has been getting a little bit of work in the passing game, and like we mentioned, when they get in close, gets the ball. Yep. So for me, it's Patrick, but I definitely understand how this could be really close.
Yeah, for me, I've been riding him all season, and I'm not going to go away from my boy Zach Moss. I think in this situation, when you're looking in terms of this position, it's probably for your flex play. You're looking at a wide receiver 3 or an RB 2, 3. But based on volume of touches, I just think Zach Moss is going to have so many more opportunities as they've kind of seemed to turn the running game over to him, because Devin Singletary is by far the best receiver out of the backfield. And in a game that we were expecting it to be high scoring, especially with the great weather up there in Buffalo, I think that you're going to have plenty of opportunities for Buffalo to be inside the red zone, close to the goal line, and just the touchdown upside of Zach Moss for me pushes him over the edge of Tim Patrick, who has been a favorite of the Broncos quarterbacks this season.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm interested in that whole. I think I'm going to watch a lot of that game. I'm curious to see. I think both sides. I think there's a lot of fantasy appeal. Are you still bullish on the Broncos and them potentially winning this game outright?
Yeah, I think Denver, for me, they're one of my favorite picks today as far as like to get the upset. I think because they're healthy in the backfield. Both Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay are healthy. They're going to be playing today. Noah Fant is healthy, and he is a mismatch for anybody, and especially going up against this Falcons defense that's just been atrocious. And then you have, Patrick, he's active. Jerry Jeudy, who's got so many more games under his belt now. KJ Hamler is healthy. And, I think this game's going to be a shootout, but I do like Denver's prospects of being able to stay in this and their ability to also maybe run the ball against Atlanta, who's been pretty good against it, but they will be able to control some clock, hopefully.
And keep it kind of, in regards to this game, Calvin Ridley is out. Phillip Lindsay or Preston Williams. I've seen some Preston Williams love today. With Tua under center, with the offense, against Arizona, I've seen some people talking props of unders for Devontae Parker. Are we still doing this Preston Williams thing? Like I feel like that he has like 1 or 2 games a year where he breaks out in a huge way, and maybe this is one of those spots, especially since I'm dogging him on the podcast, but. For me, even with the lack of touches, Phillip Lindsay is significantly better. I expect him to run up and down this field, and maybe when the Broncos get their heads out of their butts, they realize that Melvin Gordon running into the line and falling down is not good for their offense. I don't know what they're doing paying this guy all the money, but like every game Lindsay's had, he's had like 10. He's had 2 games where he's seen 15 plus carries, and he's gone for basically 100 yards in both. And then the other ones, he's just super explosive, finds ways. I think it's Lindsey and that, pretty not even really that close for me.
Yeah, I would say this is a runaway for Lindsey. Even if Atlanta, like I kind of mentioned, like their rushing defense has been surprisingly pretty good this year. But Denver, they want to get the ball in their playmakers' hands, and Philip Lindsay has taken over the role as the lead guy there for the Broncos, as he is the more explosive guy. And on the side of Preston Williams, although people are kind of expecting this game to be fast-paced and a lot of scoring, it's hard to trust Tua. We didn't really see much out of him last week. And I do think there is a distinct possibility where Arizona, who surprisingly is one of the top 10 teams in the NFL in terms of rushing percentage, just wants to hand the ball off to Chase Edmonds and allow Kyler Murray to run it up and down the field. And they're able to control the clock in this game against a Miami defense that I think is dead last in the NFL in like DVOA against running backs. So I'd be worried about the opportunities that Preston Williams will be afforded as compared to Philip Lindsay's guaranteed touches in a game that we're expecting to be up and down the field.
Yep. Let's talk about that Lions situation. I know it was one of the bets that I was looking at earlier in the week. Lions moved a little bit. It looks like Stafford's going to play. No Kenny G. Stafford, Kenny, COVID, not COVID. We're coming, but he's eligible to play. Where are you at with him? And we got a question in the chat. Would you start Derek Carr over Stafford this week?
I think they both have decent upside. I'd be worried about Stafford minus his go-to guy. I know everyone's kind of expecting like Marvin Jones. Oh, Marvin Jones week, blah blah. But Stafford doesn't force him the targets when Kenny G's out, and this will be a big TJ Hawkinson game, I believe, as he's the biggest guy. And we saw it last week when Galladay went out. But I do think Minnesota is able to control the clock again, very similar to what we saw them do against Green Bay. And Detroit's offense is nowhere near as good as the Packers. And so I would go Derek Carr in a game where they're both going to have to throw the ball. Derek Carr has been uber efficient. Darren Waller's going to have himself a day. All their receivers are healthy now. Bryan Edwards is back. Henry Ruggs is healthy. Nelson Aguilar is not looking like the guy that everyone just wanted to get the hell out of town because he couldn't catch, a cold. So I'm going Derek Carr, and pretty convincingly for me.
Yeah, I mean, I love Derek Carr down the stretch. I think this is a really fun shootout-y game. I think, we saw Drew Lock throw for basically 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against the same defense a week ago. Mm-hmm. Derek Carr's offensive line should be healthier and better. If Henry Ruggs can keep his butt on the field and actually keep his toes in the end zone, maybe he can have a nice day too. But yeah, I'm definitely Derek Carr over Stafford. Stafford is a guy that we're both really, really excited about coming into the season. And for one reason or another, it hasn't come to fruition. It's kind of the full Detroit Lions experience in one season for us, Brian.
Yep.
I want to talk a quick nugget and shift our focus to betting and kind of use this as a jumping off point to talk about those Pittsburgh Steelers, because this line at 14 and a half,
it's a big line, dude.
It's stinky, and we can use this as a kind of a jump off point for potentially using Claypool with Deontay Johnson back this week. But the Steelers have been in this spot 6 times where they have been double-digit favorites against garbage quarterbacks. And you know what they've done, Brian? They failed to cover 6 times. We can go back to last year when they played Miami. They won 27-14, but they were 14-point favorites, and they were down 2 touchdowns to start that game. We can go back to the year before when they faced Jeff Driscoll in the Cincinnati Bengals. They only won 16-13, won by a field goal. They played those I believe Oakland at the time Raiders back in December, won 24-21 as a 10.5 point favorite. They played against Brett Hundley when Aaron Rodgers was out. The Packers were up 14-7 in that game. The Steelers won 31-28, so another 3-point win. They played Jacoby Brissett Won had a 3-point win, 20-17. They played Deshaun Kaiser as a 10-point favorite, and only won by 3 points. So I guess, are we buying the trends, or is this Dallas Cowboys team just so bad that it's not going to matter? Because like, you can say all you want about whoever Garrett Gilbert who's under center, but like, is he really that much worse than Brett Hundley or Deshaun Kaiser or Jeff Driscoll? And if we're buying that Dallas can keep this game close, does that mean maybe the Steelers are not? I don't want to say players to avoid, but like going all in on Pittsburgh might not make as much sense as it seems on the surface.
Well, let me lead off with the fact that the Cowboys are currently 0-8 against the line this season.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's definitely something that's probably factoring into this line, just kind of hovering around 2 touchdowns.
Finds its level.
Yeah, and so this is one of those games where how you and we always talk about, like, sometimes you want to find the value in this game, even though Pittsburgh is a big favorite. That 2 touchdowns is really difficult to cover, as we saw Kansas City struggle to beat the Jets by 19.5 until late. They had to add another touchdown. And, I really think this is a game where I'm going to be betting heavily on Pittsburgh first half against the line. I think it's
I think I'm going the other way. I think I know on the betting show I said Pittsburgh in the first half, but I think the move is to take Dallas early, and then maybe even like Dallas to win the first quarter or something like that. Dallas at the first half, and then take Pittsburgh on the live line to win the game by 3.
I don't know about that, but I do. For me, the reason why I'd lean Pittsburgh first half is because currently it's plus money on a couple of sites, and it's -7.5. I think this is a game where you see Pittsburgh. This is just kind of my assumption. They'll be able to get out early, because even though Dallas, they've had some time to get Gilbert in there and get him acclimated to what they want to do on offense. Dallas is still missing 4/5 of their offensive line, and Pittsburgh right away, they're going to be bringing the heat on this guy, and they're going to be getting in there in his face early and often. And I think this is a game where potentially in the first half you see Pittsburgh get a sack fumble or a pick six, as well as be able to drive up and down the field on them, and they're up 14-0 in the blink of an eye. And then the rest of the game, you see Dallas kind of stay in it as they fade Zeke. If he's active, they decide, okay, screw it, we're just going to sit Zeke, put Tony Pollard in, who's better than Zeke right now, and you see them get a few garbage plays near the end of the game. And I think they might creep. I think they might cover the line at the end of the game if they're down by 20 and they score a touchdown. Just some random touchdown to none other than Michael Gallup, of course. And then,
of course,
after everyone's already dropped him. But no, I like Pittsburgh first half, but I'm avoiding the game line altogether in this.
Yeah, I would avoid Pittsburgh in any sort of teaser, any sort of parlay. Like if you want to do money line parlay and go in, but I still think there's a lot of risk there. With that being said, are you interested in Chase Claypool in seemingly a monster matchup? Or do you look at someone, say, Will Fuller against Jacksonville? And we talked about that. Obviously, there was a lot of trade rumors about him potentially going elsewhere, and it didn't come to fruition. I don't know if that factors into kind of his expectations for today. I'm guessing he'll be just fine. But what do you think, Claypool or Will Fuller?
I would probably lean Will Fuller just because he's the de facto number one there for Houston, although our guy Brandon Cooks has shown to be the more consistent option in Houston. But I think Fuller's playing time and guaranteed involvement in the offense as long as he's healthy, as opposed to Claypool with Deontay Johnson healthy, with Juju Smith-Schuster healthy, Eric Ebron healthy, James Conner. The fact that Pittsburgh is a huge favorite and they might be rotating in other backs and other, Ray McLeod might get some playing time in the second half of this game. Yeah, I would go Fuller just based on the guaranteed opportunities.
I would go with Fuller as well. I trust him more. I think with Deontay Johnson back, it's always cutting into Claypool, and it always makes things interesting.
Don't get us wrong.
But
It makes it sick to suggest Will Fuller, by the way.
yeah,
At least
but
me, anyways.
he's earned it. He's earned it thus far, and been pretty solid and avoiding injuries. So I'm sure his leg will bop today, and he'll be out early. Your boy Zach Moss or Amari Cooper?
I gotta go Zach Moss, man. Like,
yeah,
I just
he's
if
definitely much safer.
yes, and even that Amari Cooper has not been running deep routes, and they're not going to have time to do that anyway. So the only guys that are going to be seeing those kind of passes would be a Michael Gallup in jump ball situations, or it's going to be a lot of dump offs to Dalton Schultz. There's not going to be time for Dallas to set up these route running passes that are supposed to be timing plays against this Pittsburgh defense.
Brian, as our resident DFS guy, what games interest you in terms of from like a stacking perspective? Like, is there certain ones you keep finding yourself gravitating towards as we are here on Sunday?
Unfortunately, I'm trusting the Bills and the Seahawks. I feel like far too often. I just think that like Russell Wilson is on a different planet, and I do think that this is the game where you may potentially see David Moore again find another touchdown. Like on DraftKings, he's 3,100 in a game where Seattle's going to be throwing because Buffalo's probably going to score on them. I think John Brown is extremely interesting as he's fully healthy. He's the third cheapest wide receiver option for the Bills in a game that Josh Allen should probably throw 35, 40 times. So those are two guys I'm keeping an eye on. Obviously, DK and Tyler Lockett. I like Lockett better than DK this week. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Stephon Diggs. He's just an absolute target monster.
What about the Denver game? Is there as a kind of an under the radar stack, a little Drew Lock, a little Jerry Jeudy, a little Noah Fant kind of combo? I think that could be really interesting in a game where it should be interesting. It should be up and down. The total's basically 49, almost 50. So that kind of jumped out to me.
Yeah, I love Noah Fant this week. I wrote about him in my article, Time to Shine, Ride the Pine, on fakepigskin.com this week. You can check that out. And then a guy who's kind of under the radar is I think it's Christian Blake for the Atlanta Falcons. He came in and saw the majority of the snaps on the outside once Calvin Ridley went out last week. Everyone earlier in the year went for that Zacharias, who he was kind of playing that slot role, where Russell Gage is healthy now, and Russell Gage is the slot guy for the Atlanta Falcons, so he's going to stay there. And I really think that's going to be Blake on the outside for the Falcons. So if you're looking for a potential home run play, guy who could get maybe 3-4 receptions and maybe find the end zone, I think that's a great name to place in there if you're really hurting in terms of salary.
100%. Let's answer Luke's question about his trade. He traded away Raheem Mostert, Mike Davis, and Tyler Boyd. He got Joe Mixon and DJ Moore. I like that trade quite a bit, especially the return of Christian McCaffrey. We'll see what Mostert's like. The Niners are at a weird spot. There's a lot of injuries going on there. We'll see how interested they are at rushing Mostert back. If they're not going to be very good, I could see them just take your time. Don't worry about coming back. Obviously, Tyler Boyd is really good, but getting Joe Mixon and DJ Moore in that deal, I think that's a home run deal for you.
Yeah, especially like we talked about this preseason about how this Bengals offense could wind up being like the surprise story of the year, and it sure as hell has. When Joe Mixon's healthy, dude's getting 18 to 20 touches a game. Joe Burrow looks like every bit the number one pick. The offense is only going to get better. And then, you're looking at DJ Moore, who on a week-to-week basis, he hasn't been the number one guy in terms of targets, but his big play potential and the fact that they've been trailing in a lot of games and they're still currently fighting for a playoff spot, like they're at the back end of the potential wild card position, I think that's a fantastic trade for the guys that you gave up.
Yeah, especially if you need to play them now. I think it makes a ton of sense. You're giving up two running backs who probably won't see the field. Like Mike Davis isn't somebody you can play now that McCaffrey's back, right?
No, hell no.
Yeah. Let's see what we got going on in here. Des Bryant's playing. Lindsey's playing. Matthew Stafford's playing. McCaffrey's playing. Calvin Ridley's out. Mark Ingram's out. J.K. Dobbins against Indy, or where are you at with this game? Because I do want to finish my betting card today, and I do want some feedback from you, Brian. I have a couple sticks in the fire, and I want to see where you're at. But where do you think of that Baltimore Indy game? And if is it a situation like we got a question, Tom Brady or Lamar Jackson? Like what do you think of the Ravens offense in that spot? And this is a short line. It's moving in favor of Indy. Lamar's been kind of a mess the past few weeks, just dropping the ball. They probably should have beat Pittsburgh. They didn't. Does Baltimore get it figured out against Indy team that with Darius Leonard, yes, their defense is better, but they've also destroyed a bunch of really garbage teams.
Yep.
So I'm not sure how much to like. Where are you at with the Ravens, and what do you think of their offense today?
Let me just say, I am pounding the Ravens right now in terms of betting them. But currently at a pick'em, we're talking about a team who last year was the number 1 seed in the AFC, a team who should, by all accounts, have beaten the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers last week. If it wasn't for 4 turnovers by Lamar Jackson, they should have won that game. And if they had won that game, the narrative coming into this one would be completely different, especially considering we were writing off the Colts just 3 weeks ago when they were just looking absolutely terrible at home. And Phillip Rivers looked like he was completely washed. And now all of a sudden we have the Colts as a favorite against the perennial AFC champion. Like, to me, I think this is the most guaranteed pick. I can't say guaranteed, but this is the most obvious pick as a bettor. Like, you have to take the side of the Ravens in this. And to the questions that we got here, start who, Brady or Lamar, I really think this is a game that everyone is going to be fading Lamar Jackson because of how good that Colts defense has been. But look at what they were able to do last week against Pittsburgh in terms of on the ground. Like, I don't, even with Darius Leonard back, I don't think there's any defense in the NFL that can stop Lamar Jackson's legs. And I think this is going to be another prime example of that. And to the second question, J.K. Dobbins or Melvin Gordon, J.K. Dobbins leads the NFL in yards per carry, yards created after contact, like explosive runs. This dude is the number 1 running back on that team, and something that Kyle was saying this all preseason leading into the NFL year, that he was the best rookie running back, and he sure looks like the most like NFL kind of like ready guy to take over in his specific position. And I really think that this is the day that we see Dobbins kind of start to be fed the rock more, and they use Gus Edwards more in like a reserve role.
So the Brady Lamar is really close for me, because I like the idea of taking Lamar and Dobbins and starting both of them. I think Dobbins over Melvin Gordon is a slam dunk. Gordon needs like a ton of volume in order to be fantasy relevant, and he's just not going to get that today. So Dobbins definitely. Brady, I'm really curious to see, because obviously getting Godwin back today is huge. We'll see what Antonio Brown's impact can be. Mike Evans is apparently just like I don't know what he did to Brady, but Brady, decided that Jaden Mickens was the guy he needs to pelt with targets. Not Mike Evans.
Mike Evans is getting the last couple games of Josh Gordon treatment by Tom Brady.
It's wild. It's Mike Evans. Like, what are you doing? But New Orleans, I think this is a really good spot for New Orleans. I think their defense comes to play, and I think they have a big game here, even in Tampa. So I think I'm going Lamar and Dobbins and watching them run all over Indy and putting up. If you're a 6-point per passing touchdown and running isn't as much, then like I wouldn't blame anybody when Brady, but I would go Lamar and Dobbins.
Yeah. So real quick, like something else to mention on that, like everyone's assuming that the Ravens and Colts is going to be some defensive battle. The over-under is 48. It's only 3 points less than what we're seeing in New Orleans and Tampa. So the expectation of it being a defensive affair, like I really do think that this is a surprisingly high-scoring game between these two teams.
I don't know what to make of Indy. Like, T.Y. has never been healthy. Like, Michael Pittman's back. That's great. They have like 5 tight ends they throw the football to. Jonathan Taylor hasn't been able to find the ground game. Their Ravens defense is sick. Jordan Wilkins will probably be all right. But like, are we, Phillip Rivers in a close game or down a little bit, trying to come back against this Baltimore defense, like that's never going to end well. Like
Nope.
what? So unless Nyheim Hines is doing backflips into the end zone, or special teams is making plays, like I don't see how Indy does much on offense in this game.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I absolutely love Baltimore, and especially when I saw the line get down to a pick 'em, it was like taking candy from a baby almost for me. It was an instantaneous
worries
bet.
me. That I always overthink these games because if it's so obvious, it usually is that obvious for a reason, and I'm like, what am I missing? Something. It's like that George Kittle trade. It's like eventually there has to be something, right? Like it can't be this easy.
Well, I tend to just go with my gut, and like if
how's
we're gonna
that
stay
going
on
for you?
I'm doing pretty good. So if we're gonna stay on topic of the betting here, like if you look at the Cardinal game, they started as 4.5-point line. It's all the way up to a touchdown right now. So that means that not only the public, but you're getting the sharps with the big money rolling in the bets on the Cardinals, and then New Orleans is down to 3.5 from 4.5, close to 5. Like there's something to be said about you just got to trust your eyes and then look at the numbers second. I think, but especially when it comes to betting.
Yeah, I'm mad at myself because I was looking at that New Orleans line last night. It was like 4.5 or 5 when I went to bed, and I was like, "Oh, but I want to bet some other games, and then I'll come back to it for the night game." That was stupid because now it's 3.5, and we'll see. But yeah, I'm on 2 games today. I'm on Washington -2.5, and I'm on Baltimore money line at -105. I like Miami in that game against Arizona. Not necessarily Miami favorite, but like. I don't trust Arizona yet, and maybe that's silly on my part, but we've seen them romp some teams, but they're some bad teams, and I don't know that I'm ready to dive in. Deontay Johnson, Marvin Jones. We talked about Matthew Stafford is playing, so that's a great sign for Marvin Jones. No Kenny Golladay. It's a great sign for Marvin Jones, but Marvin Jones doesn't always get pelted with targets just because Kenny G's out. Deontay Johnson is in a phenomenal spot, an opportunity to have a huge game here, but he's also a guy that kind of like Anthony Davis in DFS, you might start him and he might be out in the first quarter. He might be out in the third quarter. He might have a monster game that wins you the week. What are you doing with Deontay? Is it just plug him in a great matchup and expect Big Ben to pelt him with targets and don't overthink it?
Yeah, I'm not going to go with a guy who's stepping into a potential role as a number 1 wide receiver in Marvin Jones. I'm going to go with the number 1 wide receiver on the Steelers in Deontay Johnson, who, when he's been healthy on the field, he's clearly been Big Ben's favorite target. And in a game against this Cowboys defense, there's no reason to think that he won't see early work here, possibly score a touchdown early on in the game to help me cover that 7.5-point first half line. So, yeah, I'm going Deontay Johnson here.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, Marvin Jones is a nice play, and if you're looking for a little more safety, like you can't take, the potential of Deontay like leaving the game a little early and not returning, then maybe Marvin Jones. I could see Marvin Jones is like 6 for 60, maybe gets a touchdown. I think Deontay could have 10 to 12 targets and have a monster game. All right, so we got Jonathan Taylor, we got Damian Harris, we got Darius Slayton, we got Tony Pollard. I'm not sure. We'll go with half PPR for the scoring just for now. But if you're looking at these 4 names, where does your head go immediately?
Okay, so removing the time slots of the games, I would rank these guys: Damian Harris, Tony Pollard if Zeke is out, and then I would probably go Darius Slayton over Jonathan Taylor, just with the 3-headed monster back there. I think this is more Nyheim Hines today for Indy.
Yeah, I can't trust Jonathan Taylor at this point. He's not getting enough volume. It's a really bad matchup. So this is full PPR. So I think Slayton is the play up for sure. Even in a matchup that I think it's going to be a good matchup for Washington. I think their front 7's interesting, but I think there's also ability in the back end to make some plays. So Slayton will be my pick. And I think I'm going Damian Harris. Like, I'm against the Jets. I think, trusting anyone in from Bill Belichick's perspective to get a certain amount of volume is concerning, and definitely been something to worry about. But 2 of 4 games, gone over the century mark, looked really good. I expect him to play really well against this garbage Jets team on Monday night. And even if he's not involved in the passing game as much, I still think he'll have a monster game here. And I think I would go Harris and Slayton pretty easily.
I will say that if you have the time to wait, or if you have Zeke and Pollard, if Zeke is ruled out, you're looking at an every down role for Tony Pollard. Even in a horrible matchup, he's probably going to see anywhere from 15 to potentially 20 touches out of the
nice
backfield.
thing is the Patriots play Monday night, so you are able to be patient. So if we go under the assumption that we say we put in Pollard and Slayton, and the afternoon games roll along, and Zeke is ruled out, you would keep Pollard in. You wouldn't put in Damian Harris.
Yeah, especially in a full PPR league, I just think that Pollard is likely to see maybe 3 to 5 receptions to Damian Harris's 0. And, that'll help make up for the potential rushing touchdown that Harris may get, as opposed to Pollard's, yardage marks.
The one thing I will say is, if Zeke is ruled out, Pollard is a much safer option.
Yes.
I know the Steelers have been pretty stout against the pass, but they can be ran over. I mean, we saw JK run all over him last week. And in a game, as you mentioned, with Garrett Gilbert under center and where the Cowboys should be down, Tony Pollard should get a lot of checkdowns. So what I would do is put Pollard in. If Zeke's ruled active, I would switch it to Damian Harris. If Zeke is out, I would leave it with Tony Pollard. That's what I would do.
Pollard for me too. So I made a few lineups earlier in the week with Pollard in the lineup a couple days ago, just with the hopefulness that Zeke would miss. And now that there was some report this morning that he might play, I left open the flex spot with a guy who's also in the 4 p.m. time slots, that if Zeke is ruled inactive, I am smashing Tony Pollard into every single one of these lineups, because at bare minimum price at $4,000 on DraftKings, for the amount of touches and snaps that this dude is going to see, that's guaranteed floor points. And especially when you're playing in DFS, like you need the guaranteed points as well as the potential for blow up. And that he would be like the best value of any player this week.
Yep. Totally agree. Appreciate all the questions. Appreciate everybody hanging out, watching the show, enjoying what we're doing. If you are enjoying what we're doing, make sure you mash that subscribe button. We break down the waiver wire. We break down the the betting lines and all that stuff as we look ahead to the next week. We just finished the NASCAR race, which I'm very excited to see the season finale today. I think that will be a lot of fun to watch.
Go Denny Hamlin.
Go Joey Logano. Justin Jackson or Tony Pollard in full PPR?
Man, that is such a hard call, because I had to make some edits this morning because I found myself rostering Justin Jackson far too many times. And
I don't know. I don't know that that's a bad thing, though.
But so the one thing, though, is that the Raiders defense has been decent against running backs, but I think Jackson has supplanted Josh Kelly's role here, and with that Tremaine Pope not likely to play, he's doubtful. So you're going back to just the two-headed rotation here. I think you're going to see Justin Jackson on the field for maybe 75% of the snaps in a game that the Chargers should be able to move the ball. So I would probably lean Jackson over Pollard in a better matchup.
Yeah, I would definitely go with Justin Jackson. I think he's a lot safer. Tremaine Pope, by the way, if he was healthy, was incredibly fun to watch last week against Denver.
He looked like a Darren Sproles.
But he's like Natron Means. Like he's a big ball of energy that just bounces off all this stuff. I don't know. I was really impressed. Watched a lot of that game last week. I want to talk about the Bears receivers. obviously this has their game against Tennessee has a low over under. The Titans are like a 6.5 point favorite, depending on where you look at it. The Titans secondary hasn't been great, but they also just traded for what's that guy?
Desmond King or
Desmond
Kevin
King
King?
from
Desmond King.
Desmond King from the Chargers, and it sounds like I'm trying to see official, but there was a lot of word that potentially Adoree Jackson could be returning today. So with the Titans secondary getting a little bit better, like I know Daryl Mooney is somebody that people are kind of getting excited about potentially having a decent game. Obviously, I think Allen Robinson is a smash spot, but like, should we be a little concerned about the ceiling for both of these players? Especially, we still have to remember that Nick Foles is their quarterback.
Oh, that's such an effed up question. Poor Nick Foles. As good as you're talking about, like Tennessee, they're kind of getting healthy, but they're also, they're also not that good against the running game. So I don't know, man. This is one of those games that I'm avoiding from a betting perspective, just because the Bears seem to kind of sneak in these games and somehow get the backdoor covers all the time.
Yeah.
But in fantasy world, like I love Allen Robinson. I like Darnell Mooney today. I think he could have a big game.
I don't like Mooney. I had a question from one of my friends sent me, and I'm curious to your thoughts. Christian Kirk or Darnell Mooney?
I would go Mooney. I don't really like Kirk's role in this offense, especially because I am expecting the Cardinals to absolutely dominate this game. I think that it's going to be DeAndre Hopkins, Chase Edmonds, Kyler Murray. That's it. That's going to be the scope of what Arizona produces.
So obviously, no Kenyon Drake. Is Eno Benjamin somebody as a preemptive strike that you're potentially adding if you have back, or a lot of the quotes coming out of Kingsbury where it's Chase Edmonds' role, it's Chase Edmonds' show, and maybe Benjamin gets 5 carries today, and then it's back to Drake and Chase Edmonds going forward. But I am curious to see if he's worth taking a look at.
So, and then real quick, also too, Jadeveon Clowney is inactive for the Titans today, so that's going to affect their ability to get to the quarterback. So,
yeah, which has already been a huge problem, and they cut Vic Beasley outright, which is pretty wild after him being the guy.
I did want to hit on one question, an earlier question. Yes, I do think that Darrell Henderson, if he's available and you have the bench space, like he is a good pickup, as it's coming out of LA now that Cam Akers has kind of lost favor with the coaching staff, and which
Cam Akers is interesting. He's a player that in terms of talent is incredibly he has a ton of talent, but this has been a trend. At Florida State, there was issues.
Yeah.
Already with McVay, there's been issues. Henderson's a guy I love, but McVay's been kind of a pain in the ass
I can't trust that backfield right
very
now.
Belichickian with his running backs, and it's incredibly frustrating. But yes, if you have room and you're not dropping anybody of note, I think Henderson's worth adding and playing. You like Mooney. Would you start him over Darius Slayton?
Yes.
See, I wouldn't. I like Washington in that game, but especially with no Golden Tate, who's inactive today.
I think that makes it easier for Washington to defend the wide receivers, and I think this is going to be a lot of check downs to Evan Ingram and Dion Lewis, and just with Washington's ability to get to the quarterback with their front four against this horrible Giants offensive line, and Daniel Jones, who, if anybody watched that game against Tampa Bay, pretty much rolled out into an almost sack on the 4th down play that they extended the game to score the touchdown that they gave themselves the opportunity to tie it. This dude has no pocket awareness whatsoever going up against one of the most fearsome front four in the NFL. I just think that this Washington team is going to be able to completely shut down this Giants offense.
Yeah, you may be right. I don't trust the Bears offense, and especially the passing game. I am really curious, from a David Montgomery perspective, like, do you expect him? Like, the Titans have had issues stopping the run. Like, does he present a nice opportunity today? Maybe he's somebody even in DFS that you're potentially looking at as a guy who could see a decent volume in a low scoring game, and have a nice opportunity here.
Yeah, I've been playing David Montgomery for weeks now. I mean, the dude is getting RB1 volume. He just hasn't been able to find the end zone. Last week, he had 89 rushing yards. He had 2 receptions for 16 yards. He hasn't scored a touchdown since week 5 against Tampa Bay, and he only has 2 on the season. Eventually, you're gonna see some positive regression here, especially against the Titans team, who, yeah, they've really struggled against the run. Teams have been able to move the ball against them. I think Montgomery finds the end zone today, and I do think that he potentially eclipses 100 rushing yards as well.
Yeah. I'm still going Slayton, but I'm not buying Mooney in kind of in general. I don't know. Any other questions we missed?
I think we got them. Oh, and I want to tell everybody, bet the Seattle team total over 27.5. The fact that it's that low, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
In good weather in Buffalo?
Yeah, it's like 60 degrees in Buffalo.
Yeah.
If it was colder, especially in that defense has had issues. Both team total overs and the full game over is incredibly appealing. Brian, let's talk betting lines for a bit. Any other lines that, since we talked on Thursday, have either moved or you've become more interested in potentially backing? Besides, obviously we're on Baltimore, I'm on Washington. Any other lines that jump out to you as like, I have to be a part of this?
Well, I've been monitoring the Chiefs and the Panthers as it's kind of crept down. Right now it's an even 10, and I'm hoping within the next 30 minutes or so, with it being a double-digit line, you get more action on the Panthers with the 10, and then I would be hammering the hell out of Kansas City at 9.5 for as long as I could get it, just because of their ability to pull away from teams and never take their foot off the gas pedal is something that we haven't seen since the Patriots in 2007, when they were just absolutely rolling teams en route to an 18-0 record leading into that loss to the Giants. And as good as Carolina, or as Carolina has played a lot better than what a lot of people expected. I mean, not you. You picked them over the win total. Yeah. I like Kansas City to cover the line, especially if it creeps down in the single digits.
Would you start Deshaun Watson or Justin Herbert?
I'm going Watson.
I'm going Herbert.
I can see the move to Herbert with how good that he's been, but I think the possibility of the Raiders being able to control this game on the ground with the efficient passing that they have, limiting the possessions of the Chargers, as opposed to the Houston Texans offense runs through Deshaun Watson. They've been passing at like a 64% clip since Bob has been let go there. And kind of like we've seen Seattle let Russ cook, Houston's letting Deshaun Watson cook. So regardless of what Jacksonville's able to do, you're going to see Deshaun Watson over there running, throwing, and I think that they're going to get anywhere near the 20s and maybe 30 points today. So I like Watson a little bit better than Herbert.
Yeah, I mean, they're both amazing options today in really good spots. I don't know what to make of that Jacksonville game, because what if it is kind of like what Miami did last week, where Houston just trounces them, but it's not really a lot of Deshaun Watson. Like, I'm not obviously not saying like I expect him to have a bad game, but like this could be a good spot against a rookie first time starting quarterback where it gets a little silly, and then they're up, say 17-3, and they run a little bit more than you expect, and they don't throw quite as much, and then where the Raiders and Chargers could go for 65-70 points and nobody would blink an eye at that, 35-31, and all of a sudden Herbert's got 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, Keenan Allen's a full go today. That would be my only pause for why I wouldn't run straight to Watson.
obviously they're nowhere near on the same level for me, but we talked about this last week with Patrick Mahomes going into a game against the Jets where, the assumption was that Kansas City was going to be able to run the ball all over them. They're going to gain control of the clock, and it's not going to be a smash spot for Patrick Mahomes, only to see him throw 5 touchdowns and him be the highest scoring quarterback of the week. And, we've seen it multiple times when you're talking about games like this with the expectation of the one team blowing the other one out. And, you look at an Aaron Rodgers who he had weeks too where you think Green Bay is just going to kill teams on the ground, only to see Aaron Rodgers throw for 4 touchdowns. So I think that's the possibility that I don't want to miss out on with the Deshaun Watson, that even if they are able to run the ball, they're still looking to throw, especially down close. They're looking to throw with Watson.
Yeah, and their defense has been so bad that maybe it's one of those spots that the Jaguars actually play a little bit better than you expect. James Robinson maybe runs for 80 yards and a touchdown, and then Watson has to throw a little bit more and has a nice game here too. So there's a few paths to Watson having a nice game. I'll go with you. Let's go Watson. We'll be IBM Watson boys today and see how
both great options though.
Oh yeah, like imagine having those guys in the Superflex league. You'd be loving life.
Yeah, kind of like me with Josh Allen and Kyler Murray and SFBX.
Yeah, how's that going for you?
It's going pretty well this year.
My team is a dumpster fire. It's been, it's my whole season in a nutshell. It's every so often there's just those years where like no matter what you do, it just things go sideways and whatnot. Brian, we are quickly and rapidly approaching that 9:30 time where we are going to hop off. If you have more questions, if you want to get any more feedback before 9:30, don't hesitate to drop them in. We really do appreciate everybody stopping by, hanging out, enjoying what we're doing. We're trying to give you our best opinion, our best advice. If you don't like the things we're saying in regards to your start-sit questions and you want to go the other way, I don't blame you. We are just providing our opinion of how it lies. So we're trying to be helpful. So yeah,
I have a thought.
That's
go out and make some trade offers right now for Miles Sanders prior to them returning from the bye week, because he's slated to come back. He will step right back into an every down role. Everyone else on that offense is starting to get healthy. We're looking at Alshon Jeffrey returning to practice, and the addition of all those weapons on the outside is only going to open up the ground game for this team. And if the Eagles are smart, if they want to win the division, they need to take the ball out of Carson Wentz's hands.
Does the NFC East winner win more than 7 games?
Oh man. What are the Eagles right now? 3-4-1 or something?
Let's take a look. While I'm looking that up, let's talk about Noah Fant versus Mark Andrews.
Oh, give me Noah Fant, dude. I absolutely love him this week.
It's a smash spot. It's a great opportunity, and he's, as much as I've loved what Andrews is doing, and I think it's I think he's fine. Like I wouldn't sit him for most players. Noah Fant, and honestly, if I was looking at we had talked about kind of the Darius Slayton, Darnell Mooney, those kind of guys, Melvin Gordon even, as like a flex play, I think I would go Andrews over all those guys. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, Andrews is like 1A or 1B as far as options for Lamar Jackson in the passing game. And if they can get that ground game going, I think it will open up for Andrews. But if you're trying to decide between these two guys, I talked about it in my article for Noah Fant. The Atlanta Falcons have been absolutely horrible against tight ends this year. They have, let's see here, they have given up 60-plus yards in all 6 of their in 6 consecutive games to tight ends when not playing against, it was some crappy team that they don't use their, Carolina. Carolina doesn't use tight ends, so you remove those 2 matchups there. But in their 6 other games, they've given up 60-plus yards in every single game. They've given up a touchdown in 5 of the 6 games and multiple touchdowns twice. So this defense is just not good at defending the tight end. And when you're looking at the Noah Fant, who saw 9 targets last week, just, second week off of an injury, still kind of banged up, who's now fully healthy, I think there's a non-zero chance, as Kyle likes to say, he sees anywhere from 10 to 12 targets, 5 to 7 receptions at minimum, and 60 to 80 yards minimum with a score this week.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with Fant. I think that's absolutely the play. We got a flex question. Melvin Gordon, Antonio Brown, Ronald Jones, DJ Chark, or Deontay Johnson. That's some. Those are some legit options. I think we can eliminate Melvin Gordon pretty easily. I would be happy to eliminate Antonio Brown based on the other names. And for me, it's really just Rojo against that Saints defense, or Deontay Johnson, DJ Chark, Jake Luton starting. So maybe we eliminate Chark and go Deontay Johnson versus Ronald Jones. Is that kind of where your head went on that?
Yeah, and I would be leaning Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, it's probably the play. Ben loves to throw that guy the ball, and he could have 10 targets against a bad Dallas secondary, go for 100 yards, score a touchdown, and you'd be loving life. Yeah, I think Deontay Johnson is the play. All right, Brian. The Eagles are 3-4-1. They play the Giants, the Browns, Seattle, Green Bay, New Orleans, Arizona, Dallas, and Washington. While in theory, it could make sense, but outside of at the Giants, at Cleveland, and then
even that Cleveland game is going to be
So if we play like the win-loss game, like we say we give them a win at New York. Let's say they beat Cleveland, they win at Cleveland. That's their 2, so they're 5-4. They play Seattle at home.
They'll lose that game.
I lose. They go at Green Bay, probably a loss. They home for New Orleans, maybe. Okay, let's even if we
so
give
they play New Orleans tough.
Let's say they get one of those games, right? Because whether it's Seattle or Green Bay or New Orleans, they get one of them. So now now they've won 2 games. So now they're 5-7-1. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and now they have Arizona, Dallas, and Washington. So they have to go 3-0.
Man, we're looking at a potential 7-8-1 team to win the division.
Like, I get the whole, every team gets a division winner thing. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like we should, if there's a division that has 3 or 4 stud teams, like say the NFC West, right? Say Arizona, the Rams, and Seattle are all 9-7 or better. They should just give them the win. Like, they should get the extra spot. Okay, trade question. Just offered David Montgomery and Jonnu Smith for James Conner and Travis Fulgham.
I am declining that trade.
Which side would you prefer? Is what I'm.
Oh, I want James Conner and Travis Fulgham.
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on your team, right? Like, if you need tight end and you're loaded at receiver and stepping down, I like Conner to Montgomery is a step down, but is it like a massive step down for Jonnu before his like battle with COVID and injuries and all that stuff was playing really well. I'm hoping the Titans kind of get back to their old ways again today. But yeah, I mean, if you think you're selling high on Fulham with the Eagles in theory getting fully healthy, and you're not stressing about the downgrade from Conner to Montgomery, I guess it would depend on what your tight end situation is. If you have a stud tight end or somebody that's even in that Jonnu Smith category, then yeah, I want Conner and Fulham pretty easily. But if you need tight end help and you're fine with, I like David Montgomery. I don't love him, but I like him.
I think for me, the reason why I'm staying safe with Conner and Fulham is that Jonnu Smith, they haven't shown he hasn't produced the week-to-week consistency that you would need to see out of him to warrant trading him basically straight up for Travis Fulgham. Like, Travis Fulgham has become the number 1 wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I don't think there's any chance that they're going to demote him once Alshon's healthy, once Deshaun Jackson's healthy, or any of that. And then James Conner, he plays on a team with a much better offense. They have a lot more chances to score touchdowns. And I think there's other pieces, like other guys at tight end that you can find that are on the waiver wire. Like,
so they have Dalton Schultz and Robert Tonyan. I think I would keep Conner. Yeah, I think I would play both those. Brian, I want to look for some division odds because I think the Washington football team is going to win the NFC East. They play the Giants today. We both like them to get the win. They play Detroit next week. They play Cincinnati. They play your Dallas Cowboys. They play Pittsburgh. That's probably a loss. They play the Niners, which, at that point, the Niners might be in a full free fall. They play Seattle. That's a loss. There's 2 losses right there. They play Carolina, and then they play the Eagles in Week 17. That Eagles in Week 17 may be the playoff on the line battle. And I know I know Washington's 2-5 right now, but this could be a 9-7 team at the end of the year.
Yeah, I was saying this a couple weeks ago to a few coworkers that I thought that Washington was the most well-rounded team in the division. Not saying that they're a great football team by any means, but the fact that their front seven is as ferocious as Philadelphia's, their offense seems to be getting a little more, NFL-ish. It's no longer a Pop Warner offense. They've found a good rotation between J.D. McKissic and Antonio Gibson back there. They have a stud wide receiver in Terry McLaurin. Kyle Allen is running, Ron Rivera's system very well. And in that division, I think they can sweep the rest of their games against the division and sneak a few others outside. And yeah, I like them to compete with the Eagles. But if Philadelphia plays up to their expectations and their abilities that we know they can, Philadelphia should be the ones that win this division.
Yep. From a on paper talent perspective, yes, but the beautiful part, Brian, is they don't play games on paper. They play games in real life. And that I think that Washington front seven might be the best thing of any of the teams in the division, which is wild to say. Okay, it's been an hour. We appreciate everybody who's stuck with us this whole time, who popped in, left, asked questions, all that stuff. We really appreciate your help. Make sure you check out our waiver wire show. I'm sure there'll be some interesting names to discuss heading into week 10. Brian, we're almost towards the playoffs. 3-4 weeks, depending on your league. So these next few weeks are going to be insanely competitive, insanely important. Hopefully we can be a small part in you guys winning, making the playoffs, all that stuff. Make sure you're checking out Brian's Stardom Situm article every Thursday, Friday on Fake Pigskin. We are here to try and help you guys out. Obviously, with NASCAR over, maybe Brian and I will figure out some other way to occupy our time in the near future. But for Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Good luck. Oh, we got one more question before we get out of here.
Oh, sneak it in. J.K. Dobbins.
Damian Harris. I love Dobbins, but I like Damian Harris.
All right, there we go. That's
sorry, Jackie. We had to split him on there, but Harris I like a lot just because of that matchup. But Dobbins should be safer with Ingram out, but Gus Edwards could get a lot of volume too in a tougher matchup. Against the Jets, I love Damian Harris. I think he has a monster game, but that's where my head's at.
There's our head-to-head this week. I go Dobbins, he goes Harris.
Yeah, well, last time it didn't go so well for me, so hopefully I can flip it this time. All right, Brian, this is a lot of fun. Well, we appreciate everybody hopping in, and we'll talk to you all next time.